Sam Altman reveals his fears for humanity, great, about this weird emergent thing that AI keeps evolving. And the quote is, "No one knows what happens next." So Sam Altman is the CEO and one of the co-founders of OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT. So arguably they are the ones who kicked this whole new era of artificial intelligence off. So we've had artificial intelligence, or the concept of AI, basically since the beginning of computers, even before, arguably, as a philosophical and mental concept. But we've had AI for ages, and we've had it in various different forms. Now, people argue about what AI is, and people talk about strong and weak AI and true AI, and then there's ASI, AGI, and artificial narrow intelligence, ANI, etc. These are all just definitions. We've had a form of artificial intelligence, well, at least since the 1950s. But things like when you book a flight ticket on Kayak or Skyscanner, which we've been doing for decades now, that use machine learning in the background. And machine learning is a form of artificial intelligence. What we have now is something newer. We have something called generative artificial intelligence, and a subset of that is large language models like ChatGPT. Now, large language models are not the only form of generative AI. There's also diffusion models for creating images, for example. But the one that's really taken hold of the public imagination, has become very useful on a day-to-day basis, are the large language models. So if you think of, we have AI as a field, it's an academic field at the top. Within that, we have things like machine learning, and within that, we have generative AI and large language models. And then within that, ChatGPT. So when people say, oh, there's no such thing as AI, what they mean is we haven't reached artificial general intelligence yet. So they're using a different definition of what AI is. I don't personally agree with that, as you can probably tell by the tone of my voice. But people are going to continue to do this in order to knock down how far we've come, especially in the last couple of years. Anyone who doesn't like ChatGPT will generally attack it by saying, hey, it's not real, true AI. Fine, whatever. That's a definition that you have. The main thing is people are using it every day and finding it useful. So it's unhelpful. Rant over. Let's look at what Sam Altman has been saying. So Sam Altman, again, the head of OpenAI, relatively controversial head of OpenAI. He was deposed very briefly, and then he came back and got rid of his deposers. So he was on a podcast episode. Theo Von's podcast is one of those long, kind of Joe Rogan-esque podcasts where they just talk for a very long time, which is good because it means people's guard gets let down. So someone like Sam Altman is a CEO. Generally, his guard is up and he's very careful with his words. But when you talk for hours, you can generally get to the truth. So they talk for an hour and a half. That's relatively small for Theo Von. So Theo asked, do you think there should be some kind of slowing things down? There's one of the reasons I get scared sometimes to use certain AI stuff, because I don't know how much personal information I want to put in, because I don't know who's going to have it. A fair question. And then Altman said, it's a race. So it's not just a race for commercial dominance, but one to guide the values of artificial intelligence moving forward. And he said that if OpenAI, creates the ChatGPT, does not move quickly, then somebody else will. And the fate of AI could slip out of the hands of those most mindful about its social consequences. This is very interesting, especially considering Trump's plan, which came out yesterday. Trump announced a big AI plan. And one of the main tenets and pillars within this AI plan is saying, we do not want an ideologically led artificial intelligence. We want an uncensored, unfiltered AI. So when someone like Trump says something like that, he basically means we want a more right-wing one, because most artificial intelligences right now are left-leaning, which is not that surprising because they are all created. So the Western ones are all created in San Francisco, where the social values tend to be a lot more left-leaning than a lot of places on Earth. And because we use reinforcement learning, human reinforcement in the creation of our AI models, and we also pre-filter the information that we put into those AI models, there is going to be a guiding hand. So the question is, whose guiding hand do we want? The idea that Trump is trying to say that we should have no guiding hand, it should be fully neutral, is impossible because of the way we build these models. That is a pipe dream that does not exist. There's always going to be a choice about what information we put in, what information we exclude, and then how we shape that information and present it to the end user. The question is, whose hand should that be? Right now, it's mainly white men, so that's an issue. And then it's mainly liberal and left leaning, which may or may not be an issue depending on your personal political leanings. For me personally, I'm okay with that. For someone like Trump, he is not. So this is why we have with Grok from XAI, Elon Musk's AI model, one of the big things that they push is that we're a neutral, we're an unaligned artificial intelligence that, is not sycophantically socialist or communist. This is a big thing that they go for. We see the results of that, though, when Grok calls itself Mecha Hitler, when it starts spouting anti-Semitic and racist hatred. And also it is a bit easier to jailbreak and get information out of it, like how to make ricin and pipe bombs. When we have a fully unaligned model, one that we haven't given our values and our structures to, then they're more likely to give up dangerous information. They're more likely to spew hatred because, again, they are trained on the internet and there's a lot of harmful stuff out there, unfortunately. So what Sam Altman here is saying is, I, as Sam Altman, want to push OpenAI as fast as possible because I think we need artificial intelligence to be in the hands of the right people. And he is obviously thinking of himself as the right person, he and his company. To be fair, everybody building these models will probably think that of themselves. And this is why it's quite dangerous to have mega corporations building these models. Unfortunately, from a practical point of view, they are the only ones who can, because you need such a lot of money to buy the graphical processing units and to run the GPU plants to train frontier leading edge models. You need so much money. We're talking in the billions, moving into the trillions in the next couple of years, that it is only open for gigantic corporations. So we're in a weird place now where one of these corporations is going to lead the charge right now. It's OpenAI. There's also Anthropic, Microsoft, Google, and XAI are in the race as well. Which is the least bad? I think that is our main question right now. So Sam Altman also talked about, where is it? That's interesting. I can't actually find the quotes about emergent. Okay, I'm not actually finding the quotes about emergent, so that's very bad journalism, Fortune. So I'll have to go and look at the whole transcript. But anyway, I think that is interesting enough that Sam Altman is putting himself at the center of human history and saying, I am a champion here and I need to make sure I guide us into this next phase safely. Depending on what you think of him as an individual, as a human being, maybe he's the right person. Maybe he's a better person than Elon Musk. But the fact that it relies on one individual is scary for humanity. And I think that is fair. I thought that was an interesting piece. Go and listen to the full podcast. It's Theo Von's podcast and Sam Altman is on it. It's an hour and a half long. Henry on LinkedIn is saying, great to see you this morning. Hello, Henry. Good to see you too. Scrolling through some things. There's lots of people waving, which is lovely. Hello. Hi, everybody. Jack, maybe it's gone to his head. So talking about Sam Altman. I think, yeah, so we just had the news story about Sam Altman and seeing himself as almost as a shepherd, bringing us into this new age of humanity. I think you cannot become the CEO of a company like this unless you have an ego the size of a planet. It takes a certain kind of mind. We've seen it again and again with people like Steve Jobs. Like, he was a genius, but he was a egomaniacal maniac in certain ways. These are not people who are adjusted or well balanced, because you cannot be to act and to work at this kind of level and to lead this kind of company. Anyone at that kind of CEO level of a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar company is wired a little bit differently. And if it requires him to see himself as the shepherd taking us into the next epoch of our humanity, that's fine. Whatever gets him out of bed in the morning. All I hope is that for the rest of us, the people who are using these tools, is that the personalities have some checks on them, whether it's from the people in their company, which in OpenAI is unlikely because there was a purge. So as I mentioned before, he was basically kicked out. They got rid of Sam Altman and he came back, I think 2 weeks later. He was brought back, and then over the next few months, the people who were responsible for having him removed, they all retired or went on to other projects. So they were being purged out of there, out of the system. So he's relatively unchecked now. And then shortly after, we saw like the dissolution of the various different safety boards within OpenAI as well. So it was all a bit sketchy. I'm sure when we look back at the history now, I'd be like, ooh, that could have been the beginning of something very problematic. We haven't seen anything massively terrifying, although it depends on your perspective. But I think out of all the people running these companies, he's probably in a better position to shepherd us than Elon Musk. Remember that they are still technically a non-profit as well. There were moves to move it out of non-profit's not the right term. They are capped profit. It's a very strange situation that they have right now, but he's still making money. He can still make an awful lot of money. It's just they cannot make as much money as they were hoping to make. And Elon Musk, hilariously, has been one of those people who has pushed back on this to stop OpenAI from becoming a fully for-profit company. So they are capped, I forget the name of it, capped profit enterprise or something. There's some complicated creation, but Sam Altman is still doing extremely well in terms of cash as well.